Hi, it's me JD and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will be remixing a crafting technique used often in our youth, which is tissue paper! Lately, I've been doing a lot of crafting with my kids, and we did this craft where we take some tissue paper, rip off, or cut them up into pieces, scrunch them up into little balls, and glue them onto a surface. And I used to do that all the time when I was younger at school or something, and now that we've done it at home, I thought we could transform it into grown-up crafting and use it in our card making techniques. So here are some tissue paper crafting ideas for your handmade cards. As mentioned, you'll need some tissue paper. You can either buy some online or at the dollar store. It's really affordable. Or if you're like me, you've just been hoarding a bunch because you tend to save the wrapping paper and tissue paper always. Once you've got your colors of tissue paper selected, it's time to cut them up into pieces to make this process go a little quicker. And see, here at first I'm cutting it with scissors and it cuts nice and smoothly. Then I tried using a paper trimmer, but either my blade was dull or just it didn't work because the edges were all like not cute. They're kind of frayed. So I went back to the scissors to continue cutting little strips or little squares and rectangles of tissue paper. And this is a great craft to do with your kids. As I mentioned, they can help with the cutting and the adhering too. So I've got some nice strong craft glue. You can also use the Elmer's glue to do this, but if I was going to mail it, I would use the stronger adhesive. And I just want to point out, the smaller your strips are, the smaller your bunch is going to be, or the larger your strip are, the larger your little, I don't know, smoosh ball is going to be. What do I call this? Tissue paper ball, I guess. TPB. Okay, so I've got my strips. I've decided to go with the smaller strip for the smaller TPB. And yeah, I just put some glue down and start sticking. And this process doesn't take as long as you think it does. I timed myself and it only took about 10 minutes to get the whole card front covered, which is about the same amount of time I use for ink blending. This first card is inspired by a wedding we went to recently. Well, not too recently, a couple months back. But it had this, it was one of those fancy schmancy, like a little bit bougie weddings. And it had the Instagram station, or whatever you call it. Yeah, actually, that's what they called it. The Instagram station, where the backdrop was a wall of greenery with the couple's names on it, on like some sort of placard or sign. And I thought that would look really cute as a card. Why not? It would make a great card for any occasion, whether it's a wedding card, anniversary card, or in this case, a birthday card. I've die cut some numbers using some rose gold foil, which is beautiful. And now I'm just sticking it onto my tissue paper. And with the strong glue, it does stick. I tested it. And then I'll just stick on my sub-sentiment just to complete the card. It says, "You are golden," because hello, 50 years. I love all the texture and wow factor that this technique provides. This next card I call my cover-up card because I'm trying to save this card that I was working on and I didn't end up liking the result. So what happened was I was doing some ink blending, then I thought I would practice my doodling by doing a park scene, and then I drew a light pole and a dog, and I was like, this looks gross. Let's cover it up. So I'm using some scraps left over from that first card. I'm cutting some more tissue paper to make more TPBs, and now I'll adhere that to this card front to try and salvage it. So I'm just gonna cover up the bottom grass with more grass. But this time it's textured grass by the way of tissue paper balls. Once I have the bottom covered, I'm going to work on the top part. Now, I didn't want to cover up the sky because I thought that turned out nice, but I didn't want to cover up these doodles. So I'm just going to use some more colored tissue paper and make little daisies since it's springtime. And these daisies are simple enough. There's just a yellow TPB in the middle, and then I put a ring of glue around it to add more pink TPBs to resemble my flower petals. And these flowers are just so happy and adorable. And I realized that this is the only way I can make nice flowers because I am not a gardener. I'm trying to find out new hobbies to keep me, a little more entertained or stimulated, and yeah, growing is not my forte. I give up. So instead of real flowers, I'll just stick to making the fake kind. Another thing I love about this technique is that if you don't like your result, you can always just go back and fix it a little. So you can see here, I tried putting a pink petal down to cover this spot up, and I was like, nope, don't like that. And so I'm just gonna replace it with a green piece to resemble more of the leaf or the stem. After you're done, you can also like smush all these TPBs down because you'll still get that really great texture and like 3D feel for the card even after it's been smushed. So next I'm going to add my die cut sentiment. It's the word spring because spring is here. The grass is growing, the flowers are blooming, and this would be a great card to send when you don't have an occasion, you just want to send a card. After putting the dot on the I, I'll just add my little sub-sentiment that says has come, and my springtime card is complete. For this next card, I decided to cover up my panel again, but this time I'm going to cover up my note card, the front of my note card, because I wanted a window to be cut out. So as you saw, I opened up the note card and die cut a heart out of the front panel. And I tore the part of the front panel, but that's okay because I'm covering it up. I'm telling you, this technique is great if you want to cover up a mistake or try to save a card. I'm going to cover this front panel in an ombre fashion, so I'm starting with the dark pink and then fading to the white. And I've already marked with a pencil where I want each section to be, so be sure to keep that in mind if you're going to be doing some kind of ombre. And hopefully you are better than me at gauging how much tissue paper you need, because I kept having to go back and cut some more tissue paper because I would underestimate how much I would need. I don't know why I'm being so chintzy with this tissue paper. I mean, really, it's like $1 for 20 or 30 sheets of tissue paper at the dollar store. But I'm just like that, I don't like to waste supplies. I want to use up all of the scraps. I do need to find a better way to use my scraps because I always intend to use the scraps, and I tend to save even 2 by 2 inches of scraps because I'm like, oh, it could be a sub-sentiment or it could be a tester to test out a new ink. And my scrap pile is outrageous right now. So yeah, we need a resolution for that. Tell me, what do you guys do with your scraps? Is there a limit on how big the scrap needs to be before you toss it? Like, what's your gauge of whether keep or toss? Because I need a better one, because saving all these little pieces is not working right now. And as we go back to the technique, it looks like it'd be really fun for like a piñata card too. Is this how they make piñatas? I have no idea. Anyway, I'm gonna finish up this last section, and yes, I did have to go back and cut some more white or cream tissue paper to finish it up. And then I'll go back and try to squeeze in as much tissue paper as I can to help fill in any empty or white space, and I just squish it all down to make sure it all sticks. And I wanted to stick my sentiment somewhere in the middle of that heart, but I didn't want it on the inside of the card, so I decided to add a piece of tissue paper on the inside parts of that front panel with some more of that strong adhesive, and then I just cut down a piece of tissue paper and just stuck that on the back side of it. You can obviously cut out another panel to cover this up, but I thought, nah. And so I think the recipient will be so enamored with the front that they won't care what's on the inside. So now that I've got a backing to put my die cut sentiment on, this is, I think, from CZ Design / Simon Says stamp, and it says love you, and I just smushed down some excess glue on my mat and made sure to wipe that up real quickly. And then I'll stick this onto that piece of tissue paper, and this just adds a really fun semi-transparent window, which I think also adds the wow factor of this card. And as I mentioned before, I like to use up all the scraps, so thankfully I kept the positive part of the die cut heart, and I just added some more TPBs to that part. And this is great if you don't, maybe if you don't have a lot of tissue paper, you just pulled it from an old gift bag and you wanted to use it on your card. It's not too time consuming, but it still adds a nice 3D pop to your handmade card. This would be a really fun technique for, let's say, like numbers or initials, to really personalize your card for your recipient. And that completes this card. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this card making video, and I'll catch you in the next one.